The topic of conversation for Chiefs Kingdom this offseason is what flashy new toy will Brett Veach get Patrick Mahomes? So today, I'm going to give you 10 guys that should be on the Kansas City Chiefs radar at the wide receiver position in this year's NFL draft. But before we do get into all of that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. Throughout this free agency, it has been, will the Kansas City Chiefs trade for DeAndre Hopkins? Will they sign an Odell Beckham Jr.? Will they make a trade out of the woodworks for a top 5 wide receiver? We're going to scratch that. We're going to go completely into the draft. And what we are doing today is I have gathered 10 guys who have caught or piqued my interest in this year's NFL draft. It will be in a particular order. Now, what do I mean by that is we're going to break this video down from 10 to 1. It won't be like any NFL Pro Analyst rankings on what they have done throughout their career, where they rank and all that. This will just be based on my unprofessional opinion and how I view they could fit the Kansas City Chiefs, and I feel the Kansas City Chiefs should be interested. So just because a guy is, let's say, ranked at the 8th position in this video, does not mean the Chiefs should draft him in the 1st or 2nd round. I would just be happy if the Kansas City Chiefs drafted a player of these guys' stature. With that, we're going to get right into it. And at number 10, I have wide receiver out of Cincinnati, Tyler Scott. I feel this is a wide receiver not a lot of Chiefs Kingdom is focusing on. But I do have to give credit where it is due because his name has been mentioned in the comments, and I had to check him out. And when I saw him, I was like, oh, this is definitely a Brett Veach guy, an Andy Reid guy. I could see him fitting into this offense perfectly. He is a fast, speedy guy, former track star. One of the pros about him is his balance, his awareness on the field, where he knows where he's at. He can tightrope and he can move. His agility on the field is very, very good. He's a very quick guy as well, which fits the mold of what Andy Reid and Brett Veach does. We've seen it. I think every guy they draft is speedsters. As much as we want these tall, lengthy receivers, that may not be the direction Brett Veach and Andy Reid go. Maybe it's a change of season. Maybe it's something new they do this year, but I'm sticking to the formula, and I feel like Tyler Scott would fit perfectly in this offense. He may not transition immediately, which may give Chiefs Kingdom pause because he also, one of his cons is that he's transitioning. I think last year was his first year full year as a wide receiver. He played formally as a running back. Also, he is a track star. Kind of reminds you of someone a little bit. Former track star, former running back, turn wide receiver. I ain't saying he is any Tyreek Hill, but I ain't saying nothing is impossible, though, too, in this Andy Reid offense. We know Andy Reid can bring out the full potential in any player. And if Tyler Scott piques their interest, I wouldn't be surprised if he's drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. Another guy I haven't heard Chiefs Kingdom mention a lot, we're going to mention him right now. Number 9, wide receiver out of Penn State, Parker Washington. Now, is he your sexiest wide receiver? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But dude can flat out ball. He is actually kind of an athletic freak, and you'd be surprised with a guy of his stature. Not saying he's small by any stretch of the imagination, but just seeing him on the field and where he really takes over is in the slot game. Actually, he's probably one of the best slot receivers in the draft, and also run after catch. He is damn near impossible to bring down. He is rack king, and he just knows once that ball is in his hands, go upfield. It is something he excels in tremendously. Also, for someone his size too, he knows how to snag the ball out of the air. He will fight with defenders to get that football. That is something you love to see. But when we transition to the cons, he does struggle with separation to where someone can be on him, specifically an athletic freak at cornerback. If he goes toe-to-toe with someone, there has been seen that he can struggle in that type of position battle. So it's definitely something to work on, but also I can see him being a huge momentum pull for the Kansas City Chiefs coming into this team if they decide to go that direction, because also another key area of need is we do see the Kansas City Chiefs, as much as we want a top-end wide receiver number 1, like a DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, those big stature guys. Andy Reid has been known to get these slot receivers and have them do wide receiver one production. This is dating back to when he first started with the Chiefs, Jeremy Maclin. He may not be the biggest guy, but man, he balled out for us when we had him. And then you go Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill. The list goes on. None of these are big body dudes, but Reid will make sure, hey, they will get wide receiver one production. Not saying that's what Parker Washington can be in this offense, but if you put him in a slot role and play a Juju type of role, I can see that. I really can see Parker Washington developing into a Juju type of player in an Andy Reid type of offense. I think that's a name a lot of Chiefs Kingdom needs to start zoning in on because he could be an interesting fit. At number 8, I got my guy, wide receiver out of SMU, Rashee Rice. Now, as much as I praise the guy and as much as I love the dude, a lot of you may be saying, why, whoa, how do you have him at number 8 but you keep hyping him up? Just because I love a dude, I will also be very realistic with you guys as well. I think he'd be an excellent fit on this team, but doesn't mean there's not better wide receivers in this draft, as you all do know. If the Kansas City Chiefs can get a steal at the end of the second round, which I still believe is a steal for Rashee Rice, or in the third round, which I believe they'd have to trade up at that point, Rashee Rice would be an excellent nab in the second or third round. He is probably one of the most complete wide receivers in this draft, at least potential-wise for me. He does everything well. He's a speed guy. He plays slot. He plays outside. He knows how to get up and grab the ball. Yards after catch. He does everything exceptional. And if you put him in an Andy Reid type of offense, Andy Reid may be able to take him to a top 5 wide receiver in this league. Yeah, I know, I'm stretching, and it may be because I'm obsessed with the dude, but I see the potential there. Now, if we do focus in and zone in on one of his cons, it's he can get lackadaisical, lazy at times on his route running, and it's unfortunate because just imagine if he literally tightened up the screws and he was good and excelled in route running and didn't take a playoff. He might be a solidified second rounder pushing a first round pick. Also, it's not too big of a concern for me because once you get into the pros, no matter what team you're on, they will hound you. They will not let you take any plays off. So you would find out what kind of receiver Rashee Rice is. Like, I believe he's an elite talent, but once he gets in the league and if he feels he can just jog through a route or do whatever he wants, they'll find out what kind of receiver he's made out of, and he wouldn't be in the league long. I expect him to tighten things up and prove that he can be a top-notch wide receiver in this league. He's definitely still someone I'm zoning in at for the Kansas City Chiefs, but like I mentioned, there's a lot more wide receivers we are going to be talking about. Now at number 7, it is a fan favorite. Chiefs Kingdom, I've heard you in the comments, and I swear, every comment when we mention a wide receiver in the second, third, or even fourth round, you guys are mentioning a wide receiver out of Wake Forest, A.T. Perry. And I understand it because we love to dream. This is something the Kansas City Chiefs have never had. A dude with his type of elite measurables, and it just looks like a freak out there with how big he is. I don't think we've ever had a wide receiver of his stature. Now, MVS is tall, but he's kind of like lengthy. A.T. Perry, he's got the weight to him. He's got the body to him, and you see him out there. He basically looks like a tight end playing wide receiver. I get why Chiefs Kingdom wants that as well. And I'm not going to deny it. It would look beautiful in this offense. And he could mold into a wide receiver one as the future progresses in time with Patrick Mahomes. The only thing with him, and I've noticed it on highlights and tape as well, is for someone at his elite stature, he doesn't really high point the ball the way I would like him to. I would like for someone that dude's stature to basically be like, give me that and moss people and just take them down. And that's something we don't see quite frequently from him. He does play the ball well, but he needs to use his size more. And that's also something he will learn and develop as the years go on in the NFL. Best believe these coaches will get on him and be like, hey, most of these cornerbacks in this league are between 5'8" to 5'11" to 6 foot. You're going to tower most of them. Use that size to your advantage. Once A.T. Perry learns how to do that, he's going to be a freak with any team in this league. And I see why Chiefs Kingdom is like craving him and wanting him on the Kansas City Chiefs because, man, you partner him up with Patrick Mahomes, and then you already got your two speedy, elusive guys in Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. yeah, that could be a definitely fun trio to watch out for. At number 6, this might surprise a lot of people as well. I got wide receiver at a TCU, Quentin Johnston. Now, you're going to be like, damn, 6? When a lot of people either have him ranked maybe wide receiver number 2. Some can slide him at wide receiver number 1. But man, and I've mentioned it on this channel plenty of times as well, I see why people love Quentin Johnston because he is a big physical body wide receiver. But when you just watch him, I don't know, something just doesn't sit right with me when I watch him. Now, if he slid to the Kansas City Chiefs at pick 31 and they drafted him, I would be happy, but I might be indifferent a little bit because I know there could be good value in rounds 2 and 3. But again, kind of like to A.T. Perry a little bit, but I think this is a worse thing is he doesn't use his size to advantage, and also he doesn't really have the greatest hands where he has a lot of body catches, and that's really bothersome for me as well. And for someone who has speed, it's like he doesn't have speed either. It's like sometimes he lacks separation. It's just like, okay, it's just iffy to get my finger on what type of wide receiver is Quentin Johnston, because it looks like he could be elite talent, and then it looks like he could be an average type of wide receiver. And for someone his nature, and I should have said it with A.T. Perry too, don't be big for no reason. That reminds me a lot of Jonathan Baldwin. Chiefs Kingdom, you know who Jonathan Baldwin is. A dude out of Pitt, was on the Kansas City Chiefs in the later 2010 era. Don't do that. I'll have all this expectation and all this hype, and you don't amount to nothing. That's what bothers me. Yes, he can have a high ceiling, but he can also be a Jonathan Baldwin. And that's just something I don't want the Kansas City Chiefs to touch. He's someone very, very iffy for me. I hope everything pans out well, but this is a wide receiver. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable with the Chiefs drafted, but I know if we did, Andy Reid, like I mentioned, he'll pull the best out of every single one of these wide receivers. I would just probably feel a little more iffy with Quentin Johnston. At number 5, I got wide receiver out of UNC, Joshua Downs. And his stock has been skyrocketing a little bit where a lot of people could see him going in the later first rounds. And there have been mocks projecting the Chiefs to pick him at pick number 31. That may be a little too rich for my liking. And it's that time of the year too where we even seen last year where there was mock drafts where Sky Moore was being taken in the first round. Christian Watson was being taken in the first round. Then when you get to draft weekend, things start to calm down and the wide receivers start to get drafted in the second round where they do belong. But Josh Downs is a freak of nature. Honestly, he kind of, in a slightest sense, reminds me of a Kadarius Toney. Dude is twitchy, he is elusive, and it is hard to track him down. He's got speed like crazy, and he is definitely someone fun to watch on the football field. One thing that did catch my eyes, and also when I mentioned these pros and cons, these are my takes, but also I did some research just to see if I wasn't crazy or anything like that, but just to match up with these players. So it's my unprofessional takes on professional takes, if that makes any sense. But getting back to Josh Downs, a con with him is he seems to sputter after he does a twitch. He's like, okay, what direction do I go next? And that's something that he'll have to study and enhance in his game moving forward, to where if you're going to make a twitch, at least know what direction you need to go in. Don't just be caught a deer in a headlight and be like, oh damn, I went the wrong direction. Because as cool as it looks, it can hurt your team in the long run. But also, I think that's something he's going to tighten the screws on. And I think he could be a really, really fun, electric receiver in the NFL. At number 4, I have wide receiver out of Ole Miss, Jonathan Mingo. And now his name is starting to move like crazy, as he is another one who was basically a 3rd round draft pick in mock drafts being projected probably 2 weeks ago, and now his stock is going crazy, and now people are like, oh, he could be a 1st round pick. The dude is an athletic freak. He knows how to use his body very, very well. He may not be the tallest guy, but he's buff, he's muscly, and also he knows how to get up, pinpoint in football. He's got speed to his game. Everyone compares him to A.J. Brown. Understandable, because he is like an A.J. Brown clone. Even went to the same school, Ole Miss. I can see it. It's definitely a replica. Also, I saw on NFL.com as well, which I kind of like that comparison a lot more, was they compared him to Anquan Bolden. And I could see that as well. And also, I could see A.J. Brown being compared to Anquan Bolden. All three dudes can be very, very similar. And I could see the Kansas City Chiefs being interested in Mingo for the fact the Kansas City Chiefs tried to trade for A.J. Brown last offseason. Things didn't work out. So, hey, why not draft his replica and see how he fits into this offense? I would love a dude like Mingo. He is so physical. He is so fun to watch. The only downside with him, which is weird, it kind of doesn't add up with someone who basically has all the tools and looks like he can be a great wide receiver at the next level. He didn't have the greatest career production at Ole Miss either, which leads a lot of people to believe, well, why is that? And it's a good question. And he's probably been questioned about that already by all these draft scouts, and I best believe he has an answer to it. But I think he is rising up draft boards like crazy. I don't know if it's a first-round pick, but he definitely could be taken early second round, which kind of lets me down a little bit because the Chiefs don't pick till pick 63. Maybe the Kansas City Chiefs could trade back. They ain't doing that. The draft's in Kansas City. Clark Hunt is never going to let that happen. But it's a fun thought. If the Kansas City Chiefs want to take basically a risk and try to nab a guy a little early, maybe they reach on a guy like Jonathan Mingo in the first round. Just maybe. At number 3, I got wide receiver out of Boston College, Zay Flowers. He's been one of my favorite wide receivers to watch tape on just because the dude is so explosive. The dude knows how to move with the football, and once he gets the football, it's like he is gone. Now, he may even have a catch for 5-10 yards, and you're like, oh, that was exciting, or oh, he like one more missed tackle and he's gone. He's that type of electrifying type of player that we're used to having on this Kansas City Chiefs offense, and I wouldn't be surprised if Brett Veach and Coach Reed are interested in this type of player. It's going to be interesting to see what position Zay Flowers is going to be drafted at, because some have him mocked at early 20s and some have him mocked into the early second round. If he is there at pick 31, I wouldn't be surprised if the Kansas City Chiefs nab him. Also, a con to focus in on Zay Flowers is a lot of people mentioned he's undersized. That doesn't concern me quite that much because it seems like every wide receiver in the Kansas City Chiefs uniform can be undersized. Andy Reid and Brett Veach know how to work with these smaller type of receivers and get the best out of them. One thing that someone did mention, and I did see it as well, is he does have some kind of confusing drops to where it's like, what are you doing? Like, it seems like it could be the easiest catches and he drops them. But he's that type of dude too to where he will make a contested catch and a difficult catch. So it's like, okay, what are we doing here? So it's definitely something that's correctable going to the next level, but it's definitely something that was noticeable as well. At number 2, I got wide receiver out of USC, Jordan Addison. I am starting to come around to this dude to where if he's available in the 20 range or if he falls to Kansas City, I would be happy if the Kansas City Chiefs drafted him. I was kind of backing off of Jordan Addison, and I don't know why. It's like I was just disregarding him, and I didn't feel like he was a fit for the Kansas City Chiefs. But the more I look at him, it's like, okay, this dude is actually a baller, and he is a really, really good football player. He's one of the smoothest football players in this draft. I think he's one of the cleanest route runners in this draft, which is something nice to see coming from a rookie. Something that's very, very rare. To me, I think he's a little bit slower, but he reminds me of a stature and playmaking ability of a Devontae Smith. He doesn't have Devontae Smith's type of speed, which could be kind of concerning, but when he is open and he is in that open field, he knows how to make a football play and he will find the end zone, which is very, very promising. The only question mark a lot of teams have on him is his size, and not height, it's his build, like his weight. Like he weighs 175 pounds, which is pretty slim, which is what Devontae Adams is himself, a slim reaper. It's how much durability can he hold year in, year out with all the punishments and hits that come. If any team drafts him, that's going to be a legit question. And you're going to find out early and often, what is Jordan Addison made of? I definitely would love him on this team. It's definitely a key concern, but also a lot of these wide receivers are coming in smaller, as I just mentioned. So is it really a key concern nowadays? I don't know. In my number 1 wide receiver, it is no surprise, it is no shocker. It is the wide receiver out of Ohio State, Jackson Smith-Njigba. What can you say about the dude? He is literally a complete wide receiver. He can do anything you ask him to do. And he has the career production at Ohio State to prove it. The dude has been one of the smoothest, one of the crispiest route runners you will find in this draft. Better than Jordan Addison, better than anyone you put him up against. The only key question a lot of people have for him is, does he have that breakaway speed? But is it really necessary if you're already beating a guy 3 yards off the line of scrimmage with how smooth his footwork is? This would be a dude I'd be happy to see if he falls 16 to 20 range. If he is at 2022 and the first wide receiver hasn't fallen off the board, I would love to see the Kansas City Chiefs trade up. He's that type of wide receiver one where he has the stature of a Jeremy Maclin, but I think is much crisper and much better than Jeremy Maclin, to where, okay, you would legit have a wide receiver number one, then you can move with Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore, and this offense has youth moving forward, and Patrick Mahomes has his weapons for the next 3 to 4 years in the wide receiving room. That would be so much fun to watch, but I don't know how unrealistic it is. I don't know if it's realistic, but I do know Brett Veach, if he likes a dude, he will make it happen. Now with that, Chiefs Kingdom, I am going to close this video off. You let me know how you feel about my list. From 10 to 1. From Tyler Scott to Jackson Smith and Jigba. How are you feeling about these wide receivers? Let me know if there's a guy I missed. I know there's guys I missed. I know you guys will mention, wait. Jalen Hyatt didn't make your top 10 list? If you haven't watched my videos, you know I'm not a huge fan of them, and this is a representation of that as well. Tank Dell, Cedric Tillman, there are definitely guys I left out, but I feel my list is strong. You let me know what guys you have your wide receiver. You let me know what wide receivers you have your eyes on. There we go. We got it correct. Let me close this video off because now I'm starting to stumble on my words. But before I do that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you did like this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Y'all take care. Peace.